Welcome students, we're going to go over a quick review of the exam here today. I'm not going to cover every single individual question, of course. You're responsible for the material that we've gone over in the first 5 weeks, but I'm going to try to give you some tips as to some things that you really should know, concepts that you should know. First and foremost, please be able to describe what psychology is, know what we're studying. You certainly will want to know the scientific process in specific order. Please be familiar with neurotransmitters and which neurotransmitters are important and what their basic functions are. Also know how a neuron fires and the process of reuptake. You will want to know the following researchers and what they do, or the theorists and what they do. You'll certainly want to know Jean Piaget, Erik Erikson, William Wundt, William James. Please be familiar with the basic structures and functions of the eye and the ear. You will want to know what medical equipment that we do use to diagnose and treat mental health disorders. Please know a bit about the research method, about correlation and causation. You certainly will want to understand the difference between reliability and validity. As it relates to validity specific, what the difference between internal validity is and external validity is. Okay. Please know some of the structures in the brain, the pons, the medulla, the thalamus, the hypothalamus. Please review the lecture that I gave on dreams and the sleep-wake cycle, as well as drugs and chemicals. Definitely know what the difference between an independent variable and a dependent variable is. In all probability, I'm going to give you a scenario of what an experiment is, and you're going to have to tell me what the independent variable is and what the dependent variable is. Please remember that the independent variable is the thing that I can manipulate within an experiment, and the dependent variable is the outcome that we're trying to measure. Okay? Know the difference between an experimental group and a control group. Again, please review the neurotransmitters, GABA, which is gamma-aminobutyric acid, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. Please know those four, what their functions do, how they affect the body and the neuron. Please know the different 4 lobes in the brain. Okay, occipital, parietal, frontal, and temporal lobes of the brain, and know what their basic functions are, what their primary functions are, and what they're responsible for. You can find those, I believe, in chapter 2 or 3 of your book. Please be familiar with the process of how physical stimulus is changed from our environment, such as light or sound, and how we interpret that. And I'll use this as an example. I'll use this review to go over reinforcement and punishment again. This is a critical concept for you to understand, so I'll say it this way. When you hear the word positive, that means that I'm applying something, I'm doing something, or I'm giving something. Okay, reinforcement, I want you to think about the behavior in the example. Am I trying, as the person stepping in and reinforcing or punishing, am I trying to increase the likelihood that this behavior that I'm interacting with is going to continue, or do I want to decrease or stop that behavior? If I want to continue that behavior, whether it's positive or negative, that's reinforcement. I'm reinforcing that behavior. If I want that behavior to decrease, that is a punishment. Positive means I'm applying something. Negative means I'm taking something away from the situation, whether it's desirable or undesirable. Positive reinforcement, you do well on a test, I give you an A. I give you the A because I want to increase the likelihood that you're going to repeat your good study habits. Negative reinforcement would be, I tell you all that if you all do really well on the exam this week, that I'm not going to give you a quiz next week. I'm taking away the exam because I want to increase the likelihood that you're going to continue to study hard as you have been. That's negative reinforcement. Positive punishment, a child is acting out, and I want to decrease the likelihood that that child is going to continue to act out. So I spank, which again, don't do that. I spank the child. I'm applying a punishment that is positive punishment. Two kids that are fighting over a toy. Okay, I don't want them to fight. I want to decrease the likelihood that they're going to fight over that toy. So I need to take the toy away. That is negative punishment. I'm taking something away to decrease the likelihood that they're going to repeat that event. And there's probably going to be a bonus question on the exam. I think I've gone over this in another lecture. Please review the lectures and the PowerPoints. By the way, best way to study for the test. 3 things that we talked that do not work. We know from research. Research will tell us that 3 things do not work when we're trying to shape the children of behavior. Yelling, hitting, or corporal punishment, and reasoning. Yelling doesn't work because I yell at you. What do? Right, you yell right back at me. So that doesn't work in shaping behavior. Hitting doesn't work because it's just it's a way to distance the parent from the child. I'm certainly not bringing you closer to me emotionally or in our relationship by hitting you or spanking you. Children eventually become numb to this, and they will shut down, and it doesn't have the effect that it's intended. The intention with spanking is to reduce the behavior. And the leap in logic that people make, I hear this all the time. My father spanked me or my mother spanked me and I turned out just fine. And I'd be willing to disagree with you almost 10 times out of 10. The reason is I'll be willing to bet that there's a price tag emotionally or in your relationship that you have when you decide to spank a child. It's a very damaging thing to do to a kid because a child trusts you explicitly and implicitly. They trust you wholeheartedly, and you're 50 times bigger than they are, and you're going to dominate them with violence. So they also internalize that, and while they might not actively process it this way, mommy got mad, so she spanked me. Therefore, I get mad, I spank, or I hit. So it teaches them to associate physical aggression with anger, and that's the last thing in the world we want. And the last thing that doesn't work is reasoning. Come on, little Johnny. You're going to be late for school if you don't get dressed or you don't brush your teeth and you don't hurry up. Your child does not really pay the price when they're late for school, for example. You do as the parent. You're the one who has to take the calls for the school. You've got to be late to work. You're the one who has to deal with that. So reasoning with them, they're not going to understand the value in what you're negotiating with them about, especially the younger they are in age. As the older they get, reasoning works a little bit more, but at some point, I'm the parent, you're the child. Not so much just because I said so. You do want to say this is why we need to do this, but at some point you just need to issue a consequence and move on. So hitting, yelling, or hitting or corporal punishment. Corporal punishment just means some kind of physical discipline. So corporal punishment, yelling, and reasoning do not work when shaping behavior with kids. Be familiar with the different learning models that we've gone over. Know the difference between extinction and spontaneous recovery. And know your fixed interval, fixed ratio, variable interval, variable ratio. All right, that should certainly be enough to get you guys a really good start on what to study for this week's exam. I wish you the best of luck. There's plenty of resources available to you online, lecture videos. I've posted a ton. I've covered all of this material in either the lecture videos or the PowerPoints. And it's certainly covered in the book as well. So you guys have had more than adequate resources to ace this exam. So best of luck, and we'll see you again in 1 week.